All right. Hello, everyone. And once again, a very warm welcome to Chinet, the agentic commerce podcast where we discuss how brands are building in an AI world. Now, most founder stories that we hear are about speed, fast growth, fast funding, fast scale. How many users can you sell to in the first 1 year and then 2 years? But my guest today did not start out wanting to build a food brand. She was a French teacher, a food blogger, someone who loved travel, flavors, and cooking at home. In in 2012, long before clean labels or better for you became a thing we talk about, she launched a gourmet condiments brand in India. No preservatives, small batches, premium pricing, honest ingredients. And for years, growth for her was slow, painfully slow. Today, she's the founder and CEO of the Gourmet Jar, a brand that has helped change how Indian consumers think about jams, sauces, and everyday food. And this episode is very special to me because we're not talking about overnight success this time. With Apeksha, I think the journey has been more of conviction, patience, being early, but still staying in the game when quitting seems like an easier option. I'm really excited to welcome Apeksha Jain to Chinet today. Apeksha, a very warm welcome to Chinet.
Thank you.
Let's start, Apeksha. Let's get down. So, tell us a bit of your story. So, before the Gourmet Jar, who was Apeksha Jain?
So before the Gourmet Jar, so I call myself an accidental entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't intend to start a business really. Before this happened, I was a part-time homemaker, part-time
Mm-hmm.
French teacher, part-time food blogger, you can say,
Right.
and somewhat of a naive girl, I would say, and not really ambitious, and but always like I was always very intelligent and strong,
Mm-hmm.
and had very individualistic opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I did my economics honors from LSR. I
Right.
did not want a 9 to 5 job. That's the thing I knew that like I was very clear about.
That
Uh,
this is not what I want. And yeah,
yeah, I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew what I did not want.
right.
So I just didn't want a typical 9 to 5 corporate job, and so I ended up, I love French, and that was something I was doing on the side, and I ended up going in that direction. And I didn't realize that time that eventually I'll end up signing up for a 24/7 job. So yeah, that's what I was doing, and of course, loved cooking since I was a child, and
Right.
cooking and travel were two passions of mine. So yeah, before this happened, I was happy, just living a slow and easy life.
Before this happened, I was happy. I hope that I'll tell my team not to take that quote out of context. That's very important
Happy
these days.
living a slow and easy
Yeah.
life.
These days, you don't know what can be taken out of
Yeah.
context and then blow up, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's very solid. So yeah, I read your post about being the accidental entrepreneur. I think that's a lot of people are like I've been trying to I would say I've been trying to be an entrepreneur since 7 years, and I don't know whether it's happened yet or not, but yeah, that's a very interesting story. And do you remember like your you know a thought, or like if you go back, what was that moment where where you thought that okay, this can be something bigger, this can be something more than a hobby, more than just cooking home food.
Yeah, so I think I think entrepreneurship chose me, and like I said, I didn't know what I was really doing,
Right.
and if I knew what I'm signing up for, I probably would have not had the guts to do that. But
Right.
so about 2 years into this journey, when I was still doing this from home, and it was just a small home business and kind of you can say a hobby, I was mostly making jams and preserves at that time, and some a chef from Oberoi Gurgaon reached out to me, Chef Ravitesh. He was the exec chef there, and he was actually looking for someone in India to make jams for them, the small jams that you see on breakfast
Right.
tables. And they were using imported brand at that time, and he was actually looking around for somebody to do it in India. And
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody happened to recommend my name to him, and
Wow.
then he called me for a meeting, and then I couldn't believe that okay, I was going for a meeting to Oberoi first of all. And
Right.
then after a year of kind of back and forth and a lot of trials for them and a lot of negotiation and all of that, I actually ended up getting the contract for those 28-gram jars for the Oberoi hotels across the
Right.
country.
Wow.
And I
So
think
your
that was
first meeting and you ended up converting that.
yeah, I mean, it took a year or so, but then yeah, it
Right.
ended up happening. And even while I was doing all that, I didn't really think that I would actually get that. And I think uh, like by the end of it, when I actually got the contract, I was like, okay, this is something which has some potential. I mean,
Right.
I thought of this as a small home business, but it can be much bigger. So that was the moment I think which really changed the journey a lot. And
Wow.
I think like for me it was very incredible that like I'm going to be working with somebody like the Oberois at such an early stage of my journey.
Of course. And emotionally, where were you? Like, were you scared? Were you excited?
I think both, right? A lot of nervousness, very
Of
scared,
course.
of course, because the numbers were very big, and I had to obviously move out home, set up a small unit, get my licenses, etc.
Right.
Get people to help me out, and so there was a lot of nervousness, but at the same time, a lot of excitement. And I think I was going through something like the imposter syndrome, probably, even though I didn't really
Right.
know those words at that time. But I think like for me, it was like, oh, how the hell am I working with somebody like an Oberoi group? And
Right.
actually be able to do this, that was I think what was like I think there was a lot of self-doubt as well, but
Hmm.
just that it's there, so ab karna to hai for sure.
Of course.
To figure it out.
Right, right. आइए opportunity तो इसको we have to fall through, and we have to
Yeah.
make sure that yeah, end to end करके दें. Amazing, amazing. So, and that one opportunity thing, you think that was like a pivotal
It was.
moment?
It was definitely because
Hmm.
that kind of helped me. Like I had to learn a lot of things, right? Like
Hmm.
from making a few kilos or 5-10 kilos at home
Right.
to making much bigger batches and doing thousands of
Hmm.
thousands of those mini jars every month. So there was a lot of
Right.
learning. Of course, there were a lot of
Of course.
stumbling blocks, and I did a lot of mistakes, and I learned from them.
Hmm.
And it was like there was this very very big learning curve with that in terms of
Of
how to
course.
scale up. I think.
Yes.
And then, of
Right.
course, that helped unlock a lot of doors. Once people knew that, okay, I'm working for hotels, and
Hmm.
other hotels started reaching out. And then, of course, eventually, like stores and other opportunities came by because,
Right.
it is like for a brand to be working with the Oberoi and actually like doing something for them, and especially on the tables, it gave a lot of validation and visibility to the brand as well.
Correct. True. Yeah, of course. If and apart from, even if people don't see it on the table, if they see, like, if you have that logo behind you, then that
Exactly.
gives a lot of validation in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, super. And in like at what time, what point in your journey you're like, Asha, this is real, and now I'm no longer an accidental entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur.
I think, when I started, I didn't even think of this, being an entrepreneur. I think
Right.
this all these all these words like entrepreneur, startup, VC, like, 2012,
Right.
13, it wasn't really a thing at
Of
that time,
course.
right?
Right.
And me being from such like a background where I had no relation with the whole corporate world and all of that.
Correct.
So, like, it was very different for me. So I never
Hmm.
thought of myself as an entrepreneur. These
Right.
words were very alien. And I remember the first time I actually had a meeting, and
Hmm.
I remember telling my mom that I'm going for a meeting. And in my head, I was like, it sounds very weird, because I had never really
Right.
even had a job, right? Like,
Hmm.
hadn't really been in the whole working environment, and I was not
Right.
used to things like meetings, right? So,
Wow.
so for me, it was in my head. I was like, okay, I'm like the word meeting itself felt very weird. So
Wow.
I think it took like about 5 years of doing this before
Hmm.
I actually felt like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, and
Right.
and like I think it was basically after I ended up raising a seed round of funding for the brand,
Correct.
and that's when it kind of felt more real, and I felt, okay, now,
Hmm.
like, like, this is something that I like. Then the whole
Yes.
thing of entrepreneurship and scaling up and
Right.
all of these, and I learned a lot in that journey as well.
Hmm.
So
Correct.
finances and also that's when I think, because I think entrepreneurship is a lot about numbers, and business at the end of the day
Right.
is finance and numbers, right?
Yes.
That's something I had to learn a lot. When I
Hmm.
started doing that is when I actually felt like an entrepreneur, I think.
Okay, this is serious.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, what a journey! Amazing. And you've in one of your posts you said that the first few years were painfully slow, right? So what does that look like in real life? Like what were those years? Take us back to that time.
So I think the years from, like, say, like when I started, like, 2012 to up about
Right.
2018, 2019, you can
So
say.
2012 you started with the small batch like home food, right? Like
Home,
you were
yeah, yeah.
just
So for
right.
2 years it was a home business. So
Correct.
2012 to 2014 it was a home business, and then
Right.
14 towards 14 end is when I kind of set up a small unit, and then I took it
Right.
outside home that way. But I
Right.
would say that things really kicked off after 2015 in a way,
Hmm.
And so for me, it was, I think, the fact that because of not having a corporate background, not having an
Mm-hmm.
MBA, so the learning curve was very, very slow and very, very long. So I had
Hmm.
to, and there were no network, no connections, no mentors, no co-founder. Just like for me, it was just about doing mistakes and just figuring it out.
And
Like, I
learning.
made a
Right.
lot of mistakes and I just learned from them.
Hmm.
And even that time, the online world was very different. Like now, it's much easier. Like you have
Yes.
information on everything. There are
Right.
podcasts. There are so many manuals out there. So many playbooks.
Correct.
There are a gazillion groups that you can be part of. So all of this was
Of course.
non-existent at that time, right?
Hmm.
There was no ecosystem as such, right? So even like just getting information used to take like 3x more time. Finding
Hmm.
vendors, finding distributors, clients, all of
Of
that.
course.
It was a very different way of doing things back then.
Hmm. And
So
even for customers trust, right? Like people
yeah,
now trust brands, like
of
new
course.
brands much more
Yeah,
than
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah. So, and then, since I was doing, like, I started off doing only sweet spreads like jams and preserves. So the
Hmm.
market size of jams and preserves was very small.
Right.
So there was that phase when we were not growing really, until COVID happened, and it was very
Hmm.
disheartening. And everybody used to say, "Oh, products are really amazing." Everybody loved the
Hmm.
products. Nobody ever, said anything bad about that. But the
Right.
numbers were not reflecting it. So I
Hmm.
think post COVID, and when we launched savory products during
Hmm.
COVID in the first wave, and then that's when it really took off. I would say, and
Hmm.
things changed after that. So I would say from launching till about the COVID time, it was quite slow.
Right. Wow, but you launched like the savory products during COVID, like while
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
happening.
So
Wow.
basically, so until COVID, we were mainly doing jams and preserves and a few
Mm-hmm.
mustard and relishes. That's
Right.
about it. So we were in the R&D phase of pasta sauces at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something we had planned for later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had like some sample runs of labels and all of that. And
Right.
when I think COVID happened in March, so we still needed about 6 months to do a proper launch.
Hmm.
And we just when COVID happened, we were like, okay, now, like, people are sitting at home. Everybody wanted to cook restaurant style food at home, right?
Right.
Pizza, pasta, and all was something which really took off that time. And before that, it was something you go out, you eat at a cafe or restaurant.
Correct.
Now people didn't have the option, so they wanted to make it at home. So
Hmm.
we were like, let's just launch it now, because instead of going waiting for 6 months, I think
Right.
people need it now, and also
Hmm.
we were a very offline heavy brand because I started way back. So We had a very
Correct.
good retail distribution by the time
Hmm.
COVID happened, but then retail was kind of dead then. And
Correct.
our online was very, very small. It was like
Hmm.
between Amazon and our Shopify, we only did about 3% of our sales online.
Wow. That's
So,
small.
but luckily we had the channel built. So we had our Amazon store and we had
Hmm.
our Shopify store, and we were able to quickly pivot and just push those channels in. So that's where we
Right.
took that bet, and luckily for us it worked because like every COVID wave, our sales online would spike, and people really took to the pasta and pizza sauce category
Hmm.
very
Correct.
fast, and the turnaround for that is much faster, right? Because a jam will last in your fridge for a few months, or
Of
depending
course.
on how often you eat it. But a pasta sauce bottle, like a family of four, it's gone in one meal. So
Right.
churn was also much faster. So that
Faster.
category really took off for us.
Right. I remember trying your pasta sauce somewhere around that time. I think we were based out of Bangalore, and yeah, like that was we were looking for. I think you were the only one doing pesto sauce at that time, if I'm not wrong. Like I don't know whether it was that year or next, but yeah, we were looking for pesto sauce, and we were like, okay,
Yeah.
this is something different. And overall, in your journey, do you think there was a moment where you said, "Yeah, nahi ho raha, matlab, let's shut this and let's do something else," or was it always ki nahi nahi let next?
So I don't think there was any moment where I felt ki let's shut this. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, there were lots of moments where the question was, okay, can we survive can we survive tomorrow?
Right,
Can
right.
we uh,
Hmm.
like how do I stop this from shutting down was the question.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
should I shut this down? That.
Hmm.
So I think because there were lots of periods when like they were very tough, right? Like we had a lot
Hmm.
of high interest debt, losses happening, not getting funding, no
Hmm.
personal wealth to back up and to put into the business. So I
Right.
think for me it was more like, okay, how do we survive this tough phase? There were obviously lots and lots of tough phases in this business, and so it was more about like survival. Like, ki how do I think my thought was always like, okay, how do I survive now? Until tomorrow.
Hmm.
Like, how do you? There's no money in the bank. How do you pay salaries? Stuff,
Right.
right? So
Correct.
that has happened a lot, of course, over the journey.
Hmm. Hmm. But how did you manage like that? That's very stressful, no? Like generally to not have like there's something, but
Yeah.
you don't have the funds to back it up, and so yeah, that's usually a very hard. Those are the toughest moments of a
True.
founder, right? Like how do you how do you pay the bills and how do you pay the salaries the
Yeah,
next day?
yeah. But I think this is something that most founders go through because
Hmm.
everybody has that time when there's no money in the bank and you're like,
Of
okay, now I have
course.
to pay. How do you make payroll, right? And
Yes.
that's one of the most critical and important things because that's something I always focus on the first. Right?
Hmm.
But I think for me, it was just the conviction in the brand and the products that we were making.
Right.
Knew that okay, we make great products.
Hmm.
I knew that we have some of the best tasting clean label gourmet
Of
products
course.
in these categories in the country.
Right.
And for it was more like, okay, I always thought ki I looked at the short term whenever there were problems, like ki let's solve today's problems and kal ka kal dekh.
Right.
Tomorrow
Correct.
we'll figure what happens. Let's solve
Right.
for so that we can survive today. And
Hmm.
luckily I think something or the other always worked out.
Hmm.
कुछ ना कुछ like हो जाता था. I think as long as the conviction was there, for me it was more like I know that what we're doing is right. So
Hmm.
this,
Correct.
and I always used to keep telling myself that I have not done so much just to like I've not come this far to just come this far. There is more to the
Right.
story. Always had that kind of mindset that there is a lot more to go. So
Right.
something or the other would work out. You'll obviously find solutions, whatever it is. But
Hmm.
either I've had times when I've had to borrow money from friends, whatever it is, like
Right.
figure it out. And I think for me, I've never been a quitter really. I don't give up that easily. So
Hmm.
and these things also build a lot of resilience in you. So,
Correct.
I always feel that it's not about how many times you fall, but how you have to get back up at each time you fall
Correct.
down. To fight, you have to kind of live another day, right? So that's the main
Yes.
thing. So I think problems will always happen, even when you call yourself a successful business. There'll still be challenges. There'll be,
Of
the
course.
future will keep changing. Something new will happen. But it's
Yes.
just about how do you solve it and how do you like. You have to just keep fighting, right?
Hmm.
And I think it's just surviving to fight is the more important thing in a way. But luckily, that I think grit and resilience has been there, and it was built because of these tough times, and that
Hmm.
helped me kind of survive and carry on and be here today.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I think that's a very very strong trait of anyone who's been successful, that they've survived through a lot of the things which others would have just quit. Right.
Yeah.
That's very very important. Having said that, for our viewers, of course, you should also know when to pivot. If if you're going through that, it's
Yeah.
but yeah, but um, in your case, you were basically, I think you were very very early, right? Like that time. Now there are so many brands coming up.
Mm,
Generally, people are also more. The market itself is developed.
of course.
There are a lot of brands which are early today. They're doing something for which there are no markets, right?
Correct. Yeah.
What do you think, like in hindsight, or if you have to, let's say, guide those brands who you think who are early today, do you think being early is is dangerous in itself?
I don't think it's dangerous, but I think it's just difficult. You know, if
Hmm.
you're too early, like I think we were definitely early for the Indian market, and it was harder. It was more difficult,
Right.
and the challenges were a lot more. You know, because being like one of the first movers, and like people always used to question market size. Okay, is it like just a luxury lifestyle for the like for a
Hmm.
few people in the urban
Right.
cities, or is it for some like for India, like for the a bigger market?
Correct.
uh, to convince people for them to have conviction, like investors don't have conviction, stuff like that. So I had to wait it out in a way. So it was very difficult, like when you're early, like I think it's just more difficult and harder than being risky. I mean, of course the risk is also higher because you're too early, but you
Right.
have to kind of just wait it out. And luckily for us, like post COVID, I think India kind of got ready for that.
Right.
Because before that, it was like when I started India, like in India, gourmet was equal to imported. That's how the
Yes.
mentality was for many years,
Correct.
many decades.
Hmm.
We were not a country that was known for gourmet food or for good quality. We've always been
Right.
known for mass food and like spices and pickles and rice and all of that. But and on the other hand, people love Indian food all over the world, right? Like
Right.
people love Indian food, but they never believed India to produce like good quality brands as such, right?
Hmm.
So it was very hard to convince people to pay a premium for the products that I was making. And everybody would always question कि अच्छा ये इतने का है और I can get the same thing, like in the same price I can get an imported brand that will be better. But I think what people didn't realize that time is an imported brand was made much earlier. It has been transported. It's sitting on the shelf for a long time, etc.
Correct.
And I think it just took time for people to realize that fresher and local is better for them
Is
in a way.
better. Right.
And so we had to play with our pricing. We had to play, like when I started retail, like initially when I launched from home, my pricing was actually quite premium. When we
Hmm.
got into retail,
Right.
I had to reduce the size and pricing because
Hmm.
in retail that price point would not work. So I
Right.
think those are the kind of things that you have to kind of face when you're very
Hmm.
early. So a lot of tweaks and as per the market. And I think in the end you have to wait for the market to be ready. Of course, if your product is not relevant, and if then it will eventually die because if it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I think if you're doing something right, and if you think that it is something which will which the customer needs, then
Hmm.
the time will come eventually.
True, true, true. Yeah, I think that's fair, and you're right with the imported having being very like a synonym to good quality, and it's funny that uh, outside, like for example in Australia, imported means bad quality, right? Like if they say that okay, this is imported, they're like, this is imported, you want something in house,
Yeah.
and over here imported is like, wow, I imported it.
Yeah, I mean, luckily that's changed. Like, that's
It's
what for
now
us.
changing.
Because for
Yes,
us, like, I mean, they Australians are proud of their own produce,
yes,
what
exactly.
they're making. So I think now that time has come in India in the last 3 4 years that people are actually proud of what like Indian brands
Right.
as such,
With the
right? And
make in India and
yeah.
and a
And I
lot of
think
new brands.
Indian brands are doing like world class products now, really. For
Absolutely.
every category in F&B or even other, home wellness, whatever, we have like brands that can compete with anything international as such, I feel.
Any day, any day. Yeah, I think, and a lot of international brands are now, there are a lot of things coming up where you see that okay, these are not the best, which not the quality which we thought they would be, right?
Correct.
Versus an Indian homegrown brand, which is much better quality and giving you better food, not just taste wise, but also
Yeah.
clean label and
Hmm.
yeah. Mm, true, true. So, talking about clean label in general, with the gourmet jar, you've been committed to small batch clean label. Um, was there a point, and a lot of brands started as clean label, but eventually the moment they went retail and they went big, they kind of started compromising on that, but still they've grown, right? That they've grown to
Yeah.
be like big brands. Um, do you ever thought that okay, we can do something like that, or do you now regret it, or are you proud of it? Like what how did your journey with staying clean label, how was your journey with that?
I think I'm very proud that we are one of the first clean label brands in India.
Hmm.
This is, and I think we have always stayed true to this philosophy.
Right.
Maybe because I started off very differently. Like I did not start like okay, ki business banana hai, bada banana hai, or
Hmm.
have to make a lot of money or reach. Like we're not chasing a number कि okay इतना valuation चाहिए या इतना
Right.
1,000 crore करना है. वो like that's kind of not been the idea from the beginning
Right.
because I started this from a passion for cooking, right? That was
Correct.
and I was trying to make products that I liked eating at home, and I wanted to make like I liked eating that way.
Right.
Clean label, no preservative, no chemicals, very
Hmm.
simple home ingredients, right?
Right.
That was the philosophy, and I think for me that essence will always stay the same, and
Hmm.
uh, I want to help like create products that help people find the joy of cooking again,
Right.
that don't harm them, that they don't have to feel guilty about, that help
Correct.
them, enjoy delicious food at home. That's the whole idea of the gourmet jar, right?
Hmm.
So over the journey, a lot of people have told me, why don't you compromise on the ingredients a little bit, make a cheaper
Exactly.
product that
And
can
I'm sure retail distributors would be, that there's usually a lot of pressure from the distributors, especially in the, in GT,
yeah,
that
yeah.
थोड़ा सस्ता कर दो, थोड़ा कुछ एक दो प्रेजर्वेटिव डाल के 6 महीना लाइफ बढ़ा
Correct.
दो.
Yeah, yeah. No, that has
Right.
always been there. Like people have given all sorts of gyan in terms of how to make it bigger and how to scale up,
Right.
etc. But I think for me, because the purpose that I started out with was
Hmm.
different, and I think for me that
Correct.
matters more. And it's not about chasing a number, like I said. It's
Right.
about offering products that I like to consume, that
Hmm.
I feel are true. And being honest with the brand and the philosophy, right?
Right.
So for me, I think I'm very proud of that. And yes, it's been slower in terms of
Hmm.
growth. And but I think, like I said, like then when you're doing something different, also people aspire to it, right? So this market is
Of
growing.
course.
So
Right.
eventually, more and more people, and as India is, people are making more money. There's more
Hmm.
disposable income. People are trading up, and they like how do you when you start making more money? How do you it reflects in your lifestyle, right? You make better
Yes.
choices.
Right.
You want to, especially I think food is something which is very very important, and
Of course.
it reflects a lot in terms of our lifestyle, right? So people
Hmm.
want to eat better, and I think now with the kind of awareness that is there in the and the like, I think the travel also has increased a lot since COVID. So people
Right.
are more exposed to international food, and they want to eat that kind of food back
Hmm.
at home as well. So I think all of these things kind of tie in together, and I feel that even though we may not be as big as a mass brand, but
Hmm.
it doesn't mean you're not big enough for yourself, right? Like you can always
Correct.
that's the goals are personal and subjective, right? So
Correct.
so I think I've never regretted having a clean label brand.
Hmm. But give me an example. Like, was there a shortcut which everyone was, you were a lot of gyan was being given to you that okay, do this. There's this one shortcut which you should take and you can grow exponentially, or like it did, you refused to take and it hurt you financially.
So I think the main things are like, for example, we use whole fruit. We've never used pulp, right?
Right.
So like I started making jams. So most jams are made with pulps, right? And now what is going on inside a pulp, you don't know. Like,
Correct.
what was the quality of the produce? Because once you grind something and just filter out all the, like stems and all of that, like the pulp, you don't really know the quality. So for me,
Right.
using whole fruit has always been a very important part, and it takes a lot of time to prep. It takes a lot of
Of
labor,
course.
but I feel that's what enhances our final product in a way. So we don't compromise on that, even though using pulp will be much easier in terms of logistics, cost, everything, right? But
Hmm.
we don't I won't compromise on that. Another thing is like grinding our own spices. So because spices are very very adulterated, so for
Hmm.
us getting whole spices and grinding them
And
ourselves
grinding. Oh,
is
right.
something that we do because we don't
Of
want to
course.
take like pre-ground spices, because again uski purity ka you don't know,
You can't trust.
unless of course now there are brands that you can trust and they've kind of changed this as well. But like I think for us the philosophy of grinding our own spices is very important.
Hmm.
So all of these things, they make the process more labor intensive, and obviously
Hmm.
there's a higher cost to it. But then I want to use real ingredients, and we want to be sure of what we're using, so that's something that we don't compromise on, even though
Right.
that will help us probably like reduce cost and impact the finances a lot more. So I think
Hmm.
these are some of the things that it's just about your, your main like pillars. I think what you won't compromise on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And yeah, like the fact that you did not, it does not come from a thought of building a company, building that. So, the things are very different in that
Yeah.
case versus if you would have thought that, acha, let's make a unicorn. So then you would do things very differently.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there must be times when, when you had to adapt or improve or, change what you initially thought, right?
Of course, yeah.
So what was like, give us some examples of that, and, and how do you understand uh, when to adapt or when to stick to your first principles.
So I think, like for example, I mentioned that I started off making jams and preserves. Now,
Right.
when this business started taking the shape of a real business, so I had to look at market size, right? And India is not
Hmm.
a sweet breakfast country as such. So
Right.
the market size of jams and preserves was small. So that's something that I had to like accept and adapt. So I
Hmm.
had to add savory products, right? And which was a big turning point for the business because savory is now like 80% of our portfolio in a way.
Wow. Right.
So that's, and also in terms of I think products and SKUs. So I did launch products which did not work, which probably the market did not understand. So initially the approach was like, okay, I like to eat this, so let's launch this, right?
Hmm.
In the
Right.
first few years, but there were
Correct.
some products which did not work at all. So I had to
Hmm.
take a lot of returns from the market and all of that, right? So
Right.
now, eventually, after a few years, I understood that I can't be launching what I like. I have to see what the
Hmm.
customer wants, right? What the market
Right.
is demanding. So I
Correct.
think data helps a lot over there. So
Hmm.
for me, I think I am a very data person, and I like to see what data is telling me, right?
Hmm.
And after that, at the end of the day, it's about balance. So you have to look at data, but trust your gut. That.
Correct.
So for me, I think that balance between data and instinct or data and what you want
Hmm.
to do is important. So
Important.
in terms of like we launched pasta sauces because we saw data that's a very fast growing category,
Hmm.
and we saw that pasta and pasta sauces are growing like around 2019 was growing at like a 35% CAGR every
Right.
year. So we were like, okay, this is interesting because that means there's a lot of potential here, right? So that's
Hmm.
the reason. So we use data to take that kind of
Right.
strategy. So I
Right.
think for me, it's about balancing, like
Hmm.
deciding when to be stubborn. Like some things, like a lot of people have told me, ki you have too many SKUs. Like at one point we had close to 40 flavors. So
Right.
people are like, there's too many SKUs. You should just focus on your 10 hero products and cut out everything.
Hmm.
Right? But in those aspects, somewhere I've been stubborn. Like I did cut
Hmm.
out like the maybe the bottom 10 based on data again that what is not
Right.
really selling. But at the
Hmm.
same time, I did not like bring it down to 10 because I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
if an SKU is contributing like 1 or 2% of my sales, then why should I cut it out? So
Correct.
that's where I was like more stubborn. But again,
Hmm.
it's all data
Data
driven.
backed, right? But take me a little into the into your data decision. Like, do you use AI for that? Like, what how does that look like?
I mean, I think more than AI, because now that we've been there for a few years, of course, we
Hmm.
have a good amount of data, that
Right.
comes in from the market. And I think
Correct.
AI is, of course, something that, like, for example, for our Shopify customer data, like where we are selling directly, there it
Right.
helps for sure,
Hmm.
in terms of analysis and insights that way.
Correct. Yeah. And in general, like, if you talk about your daily life, where do you think AI has impacted you the most?
I think in terms of obviously it helps in terms of graphics and designing, and it
Hmm.
helps in terms of
Content
research.
in general.
Yeah, and I think research and number, like
Hmm.
anything
Right.
research based where there's a lot of
Correct.
information, it helps a lot. And even now, for example, day to day things, right, where small agreements or like you don't have to pay a lawyer every time you want something.
Right.
So that's
Correct.
something which is easy to generate, like distributor agreement or whatever, like some of
Hmm.
these small things. So that's I
Right.
think for essentially information based tasks, which
Hmm.
don't require a lot of strategical input. There, I think AI
Right.
really helps. In terms
Hmm.
of and even I think in terms of like responding to like my team uses AI for their mails. It makes them look better. That way. Some of
Right.
them don't have like great English. For them, I think for all of this thing, it really helps a lot.
Really helps. Yes, yes, of course. It'll fix your grammar. It'll fix
Yeah,
your
yeah.
basic. Yeah, yeah. The emails in general, I think, overall, humanity's email quality has improved.
Has improved.
That's been one of the biggest changes, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at what you've built, right? If you look at Gourmet and you look at the past from now to the last 12 years, tell me one thing you're most proud of.
I think I'm just proud of what I've built. So, like the whole journey, the learning, especially. I think I'm most proud of like from who I was to who I am today.
Hmm.
My personal learning has been very, very, significant, I would say. And
Right.
from being very naive and not knowing anything, in terms of business and especially finance and numbers. To
Right.
now, I say that okay, I'm a successful entrepreneur and I can teach a lot about the fundamentals of business and all. I think so
Right.
that's something I'm very proud of. And of course, like having impacted a lot of lives, you've created employment and then customers who enjoy your products, because food is a part of your life that gives you joy, right?
Of
The
course.
good food makes you happy. So I think
Yes.
that is something which I'm very proud of. And again, being one of the first one in India to build a clean label or gourmet brand.
Right.
And today,
Right.
of course, every second brand is like clean label, and that's the whole market, right? And
Exactly.
and I think just the fact that I've been able to continue surviving these 12 years in spite
Mm.
of a lot of setbacks.
Right.
And like we've raised only 2 crores in the journey of 10 plus years of this business, and
Right.
we've done like a lifetime sales of 60 crores. So I think that's for me, taking that 2 crore and making this business and
Something so
building
big.
this brand is
Right.
something very very,
Mm.
to be proud of course.
Right. But do you plan to raise more and expand in the next few coming years?
Not currently. I mean, of course, we are expanding and we are growing,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
not looking to raise currently.
Capital right now. Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Like if you don't have to raise, then that's the best. That's the best way it can be. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Build from your own from your own business, and so you have a lot of experience, right? I'm sure, and you've done it. You've been there. Most of the things which people are trying to do now, you've already experienced all of that. Um, so what is give me some learnings which you think new entrepreneurs um, would know would want to know, and especially what this slow growth and being sustained for 12 years has taught you.
I think most important is to build resilience, and I think building slowly teaches you a lot of patience.
Right.
And it also teaches you to build for the long term and not just
Mm,
like the short term goals, and
right.
focus on fundamentals like unit economics, profitability rather than
Correct.
optics. Because it is very the environment is such that it's very hard to not compare. You will look at others who are raising so much, XYZ
Right.
has raised, and your competitors may be raising a lot more. They may be doing a lot more revenue than you, but they may be burning a lot more as well, right?
Correct.
I think one thing is like just focus on fundamentals, unit
Mm,
economic profitability, because that's what a business is supposed to do.
right. Yes.
Because fast growth can lead to a lot of crashes, I feel. But
Correct.
when things are tough and when there are storms, then I think slow and sustainable growth is what helps you weather
Mm,
those as well.
right.
And yeah, and just don't compare yourself to others. And it's hard, of course. It's not easier said than done. but
Right.
but I think like you just have to, if you really believe in what you're doing, and just stick your ground, and
Mm.
eventually things will fall into place, I feel.
Amazing. Yeah, that's very solid advice, honestly. And yeah, believing in what you're building is very very important. And of course, as you said, being resilient
Yeah.
and saying that okay, this is it, and if this is something which I believe in, I am going to take it to the end, and not quit in between. uh, Thank you so much, Apeksha. It is wonderful. Last question for today. Now if you look back, what does success look for you personally? Is it the brand, is it the money, is it like a positive revenue base, like how would you define success?
I think, see, from a business perspective, I think success for me is when your survival does not depend on the next round of fundraise.
Hmm.
When you're sustainable and profitable, and whether
Right.
when you stop having that doubt in your head that whether you will survive tomorrow. That,
Hmm.
I think, to me,
Correct.
from a business perspective, is like success.
Hmm.
And personally, I feel that being in control of your own time, like having the freedom and flexibility to follow my dreams outside of work, to build
Correct.
that I want.
Right.
That's very important. I feel like when
Hmm.
so work is a part of life, but not your entire life. That's very personal. But for me, it's not my entire life. It's a part of life. It's a very important part
Right.
of life. But there are other things that I would like to do. So having the time and freedom to do that, and to just be in control is success to me. Personally.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, that's that's amazing. And I think yeah, being in control of your time is, I think, one of the most important things, which you eventually get. As a
Yeah.
founder, initially you
Initially, it's
don't
tough.
get that.
Yeah.
You're anything apart from being in control of your time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
eventually, yes, as a successful founder, you do that. Great. That's it from my side. We have some community questions. We're going to quickly
Okay.
go through those and take them up from whatever I feel you've not already answered. So Yash is asking, what fear did you have to unlearn as a first-time founder?
I think just that I can't do it, you know. The fear, because especially the way I started, there were a lot of doubters, you know. People have cast doubt on my capabilities, my abilities, all of that, time
Hmm.
and again. So I think for me, the fear of that self doubt,
Hmm.
is something which I had to, like, having that conviction in yourself and not doubting yourself that are you capable, can you do it?
Right.
That's something which I had to unlearn, because it was very difficult for me to have that faith in myself that I am capable, you know.
Hmm. I think as you started with saying that you had imposter syndrome as well, right? I think
Yeah.
every founder does that. I think that's a very common thing. The moment you start building something which is bigger than you, you have a lot of self doubt
And I
and
think
yeah,
also as a woman, like a lot of people
mm,
question a lot of things about your
right, of
abilities,
course.
right? And like a lot of people have told me, you should get a co-founder, get a male co-founder, like something
Mm,
like that, right? So that I think is something which, like just have you have to just fight it back, and that was
of course.
the fear that okay, am I capable enough? That's
Of
something.
course, of course. And it's so funny. My sister started a restaurant a few years back. This was also pre-COVID,
Hmm.
and the vendors were so used to talking to male people, they would refer to her as sir and not ma'am. And she was like, "Guys, okay, okay." I'm like, you can say ma'am or you just say my name. Don't call me sir. So she's
Yeah.
standing there and she's talking to someone, and they're like, "हाँ sir, ऐसे होगा," and they, ma'am, ma'am, ma'am."
No, even for me also, it's been very like
Right.
to deal with a lot of men. It's been difficult, and also like
Hmm.
because I'm also like running a factory, right? So
Of
it's very
course.
unusual for women to run factories in India. So
Mm,
when I started off, like we are in the Noida industrial area, and
right.
obviously most factories are run by men. So and all these government officers would come in and they would be like, "Saab ka hai?" Like
Mm,
automatically, right? So then
right.
you would have to tell them, "यहाँ पे साहब नहीं है, I am the one." So
Yes.
eventually,
It
people
does.
got to know, and over years they understood that okay, now this
Right.
woman who runs it. But initially, everybody used to wonder like, "Sahab kidhar hai?"
अपने बॉस को बुलाओ. Yeah, it's the sad reality, but the thing is, I think it's improving now.
Changing, yeah.
With years, it is definitely improving. Uh, there's another question from Vaibhav. He loves your branding, and he's saying that how did you start with such amazing branding?
Thank you, Eba. But honestly, my branding has gone through a lot of iterations. It's very different from how it was when we started out. So, as I mentioned, we started off as a home business. So, my initial packaging and branding was we had a pink label and a white and pink polka dot cloth, on top.
Right.
And that was, of course, good for a home business. And but when I got into retail, we realized that one, it's very feminine, so it stops the guy from picking it up. Second is like it wasn't
Mm,
retail friendly, so the cloth and the ribbon would keep coming off on the shelves, etc. So then we had to kind of rebrand and redo the
mm,
logo, etc. And then we had like, so what I really wanted, and I was clear about it, I wanted a transparent label. I wanted people to see what's inside. So
mm,
that was one thing, and then second thing was okay, let's do a like let the flavor be front and center. So we had this
mm,
big bold white lettering. So that was these were the two thoughts when we created the design, like the this was in the third iteration of
right.
packaging. So yeah, so that was the thought, and I think I engaged an agency to do that. But the thought process or the the mandate, okay, it has to be transparent. It has to be like the flavor should scream big and bold. That was the
Mm.
thought behind it.
True. Yeah, I think that's solid thought process, of course. Do you think like now do you see it changing in the future, or like this
No,
is
now
this
it's been a while that it
right?
did take us three, four iterations to get here, but I think now
Mm.
we'll stick to this. And also, I think we are known for the branding and design, and a lot of people have loved our.
I
Uh,
know, the big names, those bottles, you see those bottles and then you remember,
Yeah, yeah. And
the
I mean,
recall
also
value is
there
pretty
also
high.
a lot of we do a lot of gifting, and we've been part of hampers for many years
Right.
because it's something which looks. I mean, now of course it's people believe it's Indian, but in the beginning people used to think it's an imported brand because of the way
Mm,
the branding
right.
design was. So it helped us to get into that whole gifting
Gifting,
industry. Yeah.
yeah. Amazing. Last question from our community. The Kirti saying that now the local market has matured. Do you think the next big shift is Indian gourmet going global?
Absolutely, I think that's something we're also aiming for, and I think
Hmm.
producing gourmet brands from India and selling
Right.
to the world is definitely the next big thing, because I think
Hmm.
we have been known for mass products and we've been known for very different kind of categories. But I think now with the kind of quality that we have over here, it's high time that the world should see that India can also do gourmet.
Right.
Not just mass produced brands. Yeah.
True, true, true. Yeah, I think we will start seeing that very soon. I
Yeah.
think
There's
right.
still a long way to go in terms of the local market also. I feel we're
Mm,
just at the tip of the iceberg, because this wave is just kind of beginning, and I think there's a lot to be done locally for the next 5-10 years. But
right.
at the same time, going international is definitely something that
Mm,
most brands should look at.
should look at. Fair, fair. And in general, I think Indian products have now become, that there is a certain credibility to
Yeah.
Indian products in the
Yeah.
global market as well
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Apeksha, for your amazing insights, and love your journey. Love how you struggled and stay put and reached here. And of course, we'll be following you to see how the gourmet jar grows. And it has been lovely hosting you today. For all our listeners, that was Apeksha Jain. She's the founder and CEO of the Gourmet Jar. You can find their products all around e-commerce. I'm guessing. I think you're on all quick
All the
commerce as well,
customers,
right?
yeah.
All quick commerce platforms and their own website. Um, please try them and give us some feedback in the comments later. Thank you so much, Apeksha, for your time. It was lovely.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Same here. It was a pleasure hosting you.